So today we have a few of our very well-known hosts coming in to talk to us today about what they think of the show. So Mr. Matt Dillahunty.
You may know him from the show that just finished, or the internet in general.
Yeah. Hey.
Hi.
How you doing?
Extra sexy.
Extra sexy?
Extra sexy.
I'm dressed like a pirate today.
The pirate
You
outfit
are
is
extra
awesome.
sexy.
It's totally working. Anybody need a little Captain in them? You know.
Captain Morgan making?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is coming through the mics, but I'm definitely hearing a low-key groan from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
audience.
yeah.
That was just me? Want to make sure our web audience is well aware of the groan.
Yeah, I'm just at the right age where I can. I still can't quite get away with dad jokes, but I'm going to make them anyway. But
Yeah.
I feel like that's the nature of a dad joke. Like, nobody's really getting away with it, but that's kind of how it works.
I hope so. Hey, so congratulations! I'm so happy that you guys are doing this live or the live premiere.
Yes.
Even though you're both clearly experienced with having done other episodes beforehand.
Just a few.
Yeah, we appreciate you having us on and for joining us here for ours.
I have no idea why I'm here. Why anybody would want me to comment on sex and sex stuff at all. So,
Well, in the secular community, you are something of a pillar.
oh, I thought you were going to say sex symbol. I was like, gosh.
You just get that a lot, huh?
It's nonstop. It's,
Sex symbol and a
just
pillar.
don't know how difficult it is to be, it's the bald head thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Sexy bald captain. Hey, captain. Oh my gosh, I didn't even
From
plan
now
it.
on.
But yeah. One of the things that's been great, and Mandisa and I were on earlier for the Atheist Experience. We were talking about this, how the nature of conventions has changed. And while I will say that the kind of we're going to give a lecture, the content of the lectures is what has changed more than the format.
Yep.
In the early days, or at least my early days of being involved in the movement, it was a lot more of the, we're going to pat ourselves in the back for not believing in God or, whatever else.
Being so evolved beyond that. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the narrative, or was the narrative.
Yeah, and it was, very... Here, today we're going to talk about the teleological argument and the things that are wrong with it and stuff like this, and you just won't believe what these theists are saying. And then as the movement broadened, there were, of course, the infighting in the movement of, oh, no, it's mission creep if we start going near these other things. Okay, yeah, you can stay away from these other topics if you're afraid of mission creep, and you will stay this small book-learning community.
That's not really helping anybody.
No. And if
to
you want to
just be
broaden
able
things...
to argue with theists doesn't really do a lot to change the world.
It's part of a person. It's not a complete person. And if you don't recognize it, we have a broader community with people. In many cases, I loved Darrell Ray and I have been friends for years, and the fact that he was on the forefront of, hey, at this conference, let's talk about what religion has done to repress people sexually. Let's have frank, conversations about sex and get people to go, hey, it's we're not talking about something that's it can be dirty. If you do it right.
It can be fun.
Yes. And it's also not something, it's like everybody poops.
Yeah. They made a child's book about that.
Yes. and an episode of Family Guy. Getting people to realize that what we're talking, it doesn't mean that you have to go flinging feces at people, but getting people to recognize that you can have a conversation about something that we all do, we all know, or not all. There are exceptions.
But we're
I don't want to
all
exclude
affected by it,
Yes.
regardless of our
We
orientation.
are all the product of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Sure.
But to pretend that something that's so fundamental from a biological perspective, from an evolutionary perspective, from just human social interaction, even for my friends who are asexual, non-sexual, who aren't interested in this. This is a part of reality that is still fundamental to all of us and how we define things. And you can't have those conversations. You can't have conversations about gender identity and expression, or you have conversations about various kinks and other stuff if you're afraid to talk about sex at all. And all it does is keep the kind of often religiously motivated oppression in place. Because if you can't talk about, this is a dinner table, we shouldn't talk about religion or politics.
Right.
Yes, talk about the freaking politics.
Sex,
because if
religion,
you don't, you
politics
get
are kind of
crappy
the three.
politicians.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I think we've probably all been in those situations where someone who either is working their way out of religion or just came out of the religion and there's still so many hangups and so much repression there that they don't even know like the first step to take. They don't know even, they're scared of their own shadow regarding sex and sexuality and how it relates to them and how it relates to the world, because it relates to all of us and it relates to the entire world.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, it's absolutely ubiquitous in our culture. I mean, we're talking about it not just in terms of where people came from and whether we're all doing it or most of us are doing or whatever that might look like. We're all affected by it in the same way I said, our M&Ms are sexualized, our gum is sexualized, our shampoo is sexualized. So to have that big secret and to never feel comfortable actually having a conversation with it just seems madness.
Yeah, my views on this. Granted, I'm not going to show up here on episode 1 and run through all of my kinks or hangups or anything else, but it's interesting to watch. I'm a very kind of critical, self-reflective person, so I'm constantly analyzing why I think what I think.
The examine life. And
when it comes to when I was in the Navy, I was in during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and there were some people. Everybody knew this guy's gay, and Don't Ask, Don't Tell really only applied to admissions, but basically we had a guy who was forcefully outed by somebody who was mad at him about something, and we had to kick him out of the Navy under the policy. And it was very frustrating for me because, okay, I was raised a Southern Baptist. Homosexuality is a sin. Homosexuals are an abomination. They deserve to be put to death. Not by me, but by God. This is what God thinks of them.
Right.
And
I would never be such a cruel person. I'll just follow
just
blindly the
let
orders
God take care of that.
of this loving, benevolent
I'm not
dictator.
saying you're evil. God is.
Right.
Thank you so much. But no, I met some guys. Some of the best guys that ever worked for me were gay. And that is one of those things. I love confounding people's expectations. And so, for example, I have family members who think that I'm working for the devil and leading people to hell, and yet they know me and they know I'm a good person and they watch how I treat people and charity and and that's really confusing for them. And similarly, if you've been taught that homosexuals are an abomination, and then you actually meet and hang out with homosexuals and you find they're not abominations. This guy was way better than the dude who tried to out him. I mean, he's a piece of crap who was just vengeful, and this guy's just trying to have a career. That sort of thing changed, but there was a moment of realization for me about how much I had changed, and that was when Don Baker married his husband Elton. Because I'd already been incredibly sex positive. I was already, when you're a kid and you, for me, if I would see two guys kissing, it'd be kind of like, and I thought, we all know about the naturalistic fallacy that, comes up all the time. Well, it's not natural. It's not natural, as if natural is the criteria by which
some standard, right?
It's also false that it's not natural, but that's for another time. But at the end of the day, you take that kind of revulsion and you think, oh, this is just my natural response to it. So clearly I'm, at a minimum, I'm not gay,
Right.
but maybe I'm appropriately revulsed by this. And I had already been fairly sex positive. I still score a Kinsey 0, but that's a problem with the test. That test is antiquated and flawed and doesn't take transient issues in. And it's a garbage test now. But when Don and Elton got married and they jumped the broom and stood up there and kissed, I did
everybody.
And immediately I went, hang on, two guys just kissed in front of me, and 25 years ago this would have been, that's gross, that's disgusting. And now it was, oh. And I was like, yeah, you have changed. And by the way, I still got a lot of stuff, I still got a lot of baggage and things to fix, but being aware of that change was incredibly important. And that and some conversations with Daryl and plenty of other people in the community kind of woke me up on a number of things to where I know more about who I am now today with regard to sex than I ever thought I could have. And there's far more than I ever anticipated there could be about it.
Right. When you're told that there are basically 3 options, the right one, the wrong one, and the one we don't talk about, or some version of that, you don't necessarily feel like you have to do a lot of self-exploration. And so you just sort of assume that these labels all apply to you. And as you get older and more open-minded, you might realize that, oh, I actually am super into that. Had no idea.
Or, hey, I don't know if that'll be my thing, but let me try it once and see what I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
That's the M&M's thing.
Yeah, green and yes.
So you guys, I'm assuming you're done with me now because you guys have a parade of guests who are way sexier.
We do.
We
We've got
do.
some wonderful people. None of them, are as sexy as the captain, naturally. Before we head out, we wanted to take a moment and ask you, do you have just an absolute terrible worst date story?
That you would feel comfortable sharing on air.
You're giving me a look like, yeah, I've got a terrible date story, but I don't know if I want to tell it.
I have a bunch of stories, and I'm pretty open. I mean, I don't tend to hide stuff, and there's people here who've met me for the first time who had conversations like, wow, I didn't think I wanted to know that much about you. But I want to I want to get a feel for the show before I go jumping all over the place. I will say, while I have some stories of potentially bad dates and things like that, I don't know that I look at dating. I don't know how weird or different I am, because for me, like, I was single for a lot of years. I was married for a few years. I'm getting divorced. All of that relationship stuff is independent to me from sex, even though I may in fact be demisexual. I may in fact be the type of person that can't have a sexual relationship without a romantic attachment. I'm not completely sure. Still exploring stuff. But yet I can separate the two in my head.
Yep.
So it's possible for me to date someone in a somewhat romantic sense and not have it be about sex at all.
Right, absolutely.
So sex and romance I can separate in some of those senses. So there's maybe somebody, and there actually is somebody recently. We go out, we have a good time. We could lay naked in bed all night and not actually have sex, and it's just, cuddling and romance and, having fun. And then there's other times where it's just about sex. Most of the really bad, embarrassing ones come when one of the two of us is confused about what kind of date we're on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And recently there was, I thought I was just having a good time with somebody, taking them out to a magic show, getting some dinner, that kind of thing. And they had
By the way, a date with you sounds really nice. There's dinner and a show. I mean...
Yeah, well, I go to Esther's Follies all the time. It's like...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because if I'm dating somebody and they don't like Esther's Follies, I don't want a second date anyway.
It's a real quick litmus test. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. No, it was Esther's Follies. Whoever was there last night,
Salute,
it was
shout out.
amazeballs.
Yeah. But we had a slightly different perception of what was going on and what the nature of the relationship was. And there were a number of other things that complicated this. And my wife and I had a happy divorce party. And this person happened to be there, and I won't go into all the details, and made a bit of a scene. And so it wasn't necessarily the date that turned out bad, but it was what followed the date afterwards.
Right.
And it was a little weird, but, There have been plenty of other awkward things. I will say this, just for all the people who think they know everything about me. I was in the Navy, and in boot camp I was in Orlando. And every weekend for the entire year and some change that I was there, even though I was a fundamentalist Christian who had very repressive views about sex in general, I was at the Rocky Horror Picture Show every Friday night and every Saturday night and participated in things with the cast. And... yeah, I'm not nearly as square as some people might think, and yet I still come out of Kenzie Zero and fairly vanilla. But maybe some other time we'll go into the things that are wrong with Matt.
At a certain point, you decided to stop dreaming it and just be it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Everybody has baggage. For sure. I think that's one of the reasons we're here. To
Absolutely.
At least try and
That's what we're here for.
Let's unpack that
through
stuff.
some of it. Yeah.
Unpack it, throw it around the room, refold some of it, keep the good baggage, get rid of it.
Yeah. Leave some of it at the baggage claim or whatever that song is.
Yes. But I'm not going to be giving out dirty secrets in my first appearance on the show.
So tune in next time we have Matt on for a collection of dirty laundry.
Ooh. We shall air it all. Or
Awesome.
not.
All right. Well,
I will leave room for
next.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm so thrilled you guys are doing this. I love what the ACA is doing. I love the fact that there's more shows. I love the fact that we are approaching the point where the ACA is going to be the gold standard for addressing the entire human, not just the person who wants to argue religion, not just the person. We've got family shows coming up, we've got sex shows coming up. I love what you guys are doing, and I can't wait to see this grow. In part because while everybody doesn't feel the same way about sex, you're right. Everybody's going to want to talk about it and hear about it in some sense. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Well, hey,
Thank
thank you
you
so much.
Of course.